It's no, I was there last year. I saw what happened. I saw how far in front of everyone other than Hottie he was, I thought. Mm-hmm. And I thought about how Hottie's a lot older than him.
Yeah.
And how he's just so young.
He's
and
on
there's
his way
much
up.
room.
Yeah.
And it's and I just remember the feeling I got last year was, man, that was so great to see Hottie win. And Derek's going to be the next multi-Olympia champ. That was my thought. Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Myself, Big Ron Partlow. I'm here with Dusty Hanshaw and the producer, Scott McNally. How are you doing, guys?
Fantastic. Ready to travel. How about you guys?
In it to win it?
Every day.
Okay. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell. I held that one longer.
There we go. And remember, IamMutant.com. Mutant sponsoring the show. Mutant Hardcore. Go to IamMutant.com. Get your IsoSurge. Get your All In. And everyone should get on the gear. Dusty20. Big Ron 20. Those are your two codes. Use one of them. Help one of us out. Help you out. Done deal. Okay.
It's about you, not us.
It's about you. Yeah.
But use mine.
Okay. So it's Olympia week.
Oof. Already.
Scott hasn't said anything yet. I'm wondering if his mic's on.
He did a little chuckle.
Yeah.
That's a fake
I'm here.
mute.
I'm here. I'm just sitting quietly. You guys are the talent here. I'm just running things in the background, doing my thing.
You know, I noticed he's never said that before until someone said our last episode sucked, and now all of a sudden it's like,
it's not me.
It's
not me.
This is the producer.
I do my best with these guys.
I don't have control over these guys.
This is their show.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. I don't want to have a camera on me.
I saw the hands go up. He's like, "Oh, the show sucked."
Hands off.
Sorry.
Exactly. Okay, so it is Olympia week, so we have to touch on the Olympia. You know what I mean? We have to. I'm going. Dusty's going. Scott's not going.
Yeah. After my trip to Australia, I decided that I couldn't financially make the decision to go. Like I couldn't justify it. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
Just had a huge trip.
That said, and we just went to Swiss last weekend. So that all said, if there's anything I'm going to miss, I mean, I will miss seeing the show, and I definitely will have some FOMO not being there. But I will miss getting to meet our listeners because, like, to me, that's the number one thing about being there is getting to hang out and just meet everybody who listens to the shows. Like that was my freaking highlight of the Olympia last year. No question. How about you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. People that come up and say either I watch the podcast or I watch Mutant on a Mission. Those are my two favorite things, right? Because, and then we have like lots to talk about, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's always really cool. I enjoy both of those a lot, but yeah, it's great to meet the listeners, man. And I mean, most of them are all the same people. So it's like, it's not like there's a big difference. It's the same people anyway. So yeah, it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. If they listen to the show, it's instantly like, okay, you're cool. You know what I mean? It's like we get along. We're on the same wavelength. We probably have the same sense of humor. And, all of our little idiosyncrasies, Dusty's square plates, Ron's sandwich phobias, all of that.
You like at least one of us. So there's like some relation.
And probably dislike at least one of us as well.
Yeah, and probably dislike at least one of us.
Yeah.
Judging by the comments, always one of us. One of us is in the doghouse at all times.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be, after this episode, doing this Olympia preview. Guys, we have an important Olympia preview. We're going to break it down person by person and predict who's going to win. It's time to get serious.
The most thorough coverage of any podcast currently in bodybuilding. Yes. Okay, so I want to focus on Ian. Let's see. What are his chances this year?
He's winning the show for sure.
Yes.
I'm expecting the best Ian ever.
Yeah.
Okay. I really keep up
And then I
this
call
stuff.
Brett for second. Solid second.
Brett Wilk in top 5 for sure. I don't know about second, but I got him in there. I saw him training on Instagram a couple months ago. I thought there's nothing stopping this guy.
Nathan Ashe will be out of this world / out of this country.
We are up to speed.
Yes, that's it.
Your
We're done.
most valid Olympia predictions here.
The truth in bodybuilding.
Here's a guarantee. Yes. Ian will be happier than he's ever been at the Olympia before. Yeah. I'm just saying, it's gonna be well.
He'll probably have the best time. He'll probably have the best Olympia ever.
Lot less stress, lot less pressure this year.
He'll probably just spend the entire Olympia getting greeted by happy fans, and then watching Bumstead kick ass, and then eating pizza and ice cream, and I don't know. I could see him going to Disney World for some reason.
Oh yeah!
Did you guys? I have to derail this real quick because that's what I do. Yeah. Did you see his 10 spicy chicken sandwich video?
No, I did not.
No, I saw the thumbnail and
what a champion!
Eat all 10.
Right, first off, he goes and gets them all. He gets them all. He does a taste test of all, then rates them.
So there's 10. I'm just thinking who
in order across the table for which ones he likes, and then he starts smashing. He gets at 5. He's hurting. Right. Yeah. And he did say in the beginning, he goes, I'm not finishing these. You know, he got 8 down.
Okay.
I was like,
that's a lot.
And the only ones he really left were like 2 that he wouldn't order anyways once he had had a bite of them. Yeah. So it's like, you know, fortunately, because in the beginning he goes, I'm going to start at the worst and then work my way up. And I assume as I'm listening in the background, it's like, I would start with your favorites because you're not gonna make it to the good ones.
Yeah. Although if you do start with the worst, then it's like then you have a treat. You're like, at least I enjoy this, even though I'm super full.
It's not a treat when you're in death mode. I guess.
Yeah. So here's a question: what was he using to cleanse his palate? He's got.
He was just sipping water, sipping water, and he did take a little herbal break to help things out. I think it must have been like a chamomile tea or something based on the fact that he said it was herbal. But yes, if you guys didn't see it, go watch it. It was entertaining and I enjoyed that. So, there's not many videos that I make it through the whole thing. And I was like, oh, I just watched the whole video. It was probably like 12 minutes long.
Okay.
All right. On to the stuff I don't care about. The guy's competing. Okay. Here we go.
So let's talk for real now.
Yes.
Let's talk for real. Okay. So we're looking at top 5 here. So I'm thinking we pick, do you want to do top 5 or do you want to pick top 4 plus a wild card?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I like that idea, even though my answer wouldn't change.
Okay.
Can I just throw my 5th place right now?
What's your top 5?
All right. Well, I'm just starting. Justin Shire's in the top 5 this year.
Okay. I want to see that. I want to see that happen.
I see that he looks bonkers. His waist has somehow actually gotten smaller, and then everything else got bigger. I mean, he literally, like, the shots he's putting up right now, I was like, it's scary knowing that they're not altered and that he's like, his talent is just getting warm. I'm like, what is he going to look like in a year or 2?
Yeah.
So and this isn't even like, oh, I hope, or I'd like to see. I actually think he's going to be in the top 5. I think he's going to pass a lot of great guys and land there. So that's if we're calling it a wild card, but I don't think it's wild, that's my top 5 guy.
Okay, that's good.
Where are you guys at?
We're doing one at a time? We're not walking all the way out on the end of the plank?
I mean, I'll dive right through if you need. I just got to read them all. I think this is where I'm going to piss a lot of people off. So I think that 4th is going to be Nick Walker.
Oh, okay.
I think that 3rd, so I'm scrolling down my list here. 3rd is going to be, I'm missing a name. Where is it? Yep, there's names missing from this list.
Yeah, who's missing?
Where is, one sec. Read slowly, Dusty. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this.
Justin, a lot of pressure.
Hunter, Kamal,
to read publicly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
well, I'm trying to read words that aren't there.
Yeah.
Because where's Andrew? Is he right in front of me?
Yeah. Oh, Chinade Andrew Obekie from UAE. He's like 6 from the bottom.
Okay.
That's Andrew Jacked. I just don't know his name. Holy crap!
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
I've got him.
Remember what Chris Aceto said.
I know, but I got him in third.
Refresher, Ron. What did Chris Aceto say about Andrew Jacked?
He said, "Mark my words," which is like a joke phrase that he uses when he says this to me, because he says, what a weird saying. He goes, "Mark my words, Andrew Jacked will win the Olympia."
All right. There's that.
Right.
So,
I love when I'm in the
what
midst of I love being in the midst of my thing and then talking myself around it as well, because now I've got like 2 spots left and 3 guys to put in them.
Yeah, it gets
because
crowded.
I have obviously you've got a little fellow that won last year.
Nobody's talking about Hottie, are they?
Yeah, and he's going to be awesome. So he's going to mess up my whole cart right here. So he and Nick might be bouncing around there, but I need Justin to stay in. So I'm kicking Hottie out either way, and I'm giving Derek second. And I got Samson winning.
Yeah.
I just think Samson is frightening. So here's my thought. It's the old Aceto, 5-story building that's amazing next to the 10-story building that's amazing.
So with that said, I wonder if they do have Samson for first. Last year, everybody who was up there, we had, like, when you think of Hottie and Derek going toe to toe,
the same.
Yeah,
you
they're
think
the
Alex
same.
would then, or Andrew would then be in second, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then you've got somebody else to compare to him. Who is that? Andrew Jack. What about, I don't want to put Brandon out of this, because, although, he won the Olympia a few years ago and nobody's really been talking about him. He's still Brandon Curry. We know he's got incredible shape. We know that he's a black dude, so it's not like he's going to go over the hill. He could do this forever if he wanted to. If he comes in,
he's got the Dexter thing going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's got
the good black guy genetics.
With the black comment, I was like, well, all the great guys are.
Right. He's got the black guy genetics, man. He could keep doing this for a decade if he wanted to. So don't put him out. That's all I'm going to say.
So
your turn's coming to not put him out, buddy. I'm waiting.
I think the top 5 is going to be, there's going to be a few people that are going to look absolutely mind-boggling, and it's going to be too crowded.
Yeah,
and
I can see that.
I think that this is going to be a year where we look at the top 10 and really see like crazy depth again. And that's a real positive thing. And just think of who's not going to be there. Like Rami's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Kamal's not going to be there. Nathan's not going to be there. Ian's not going to be there. So it's just think of all those guys. Those guys are all like really good, really good. They'll come in shredded to the bone. They'll have winter conditioning, right? Winter conditioning, and those are the best Olympias where you see guys in 12th that have like just as good a conditioning as anyone on the show. And right. I think that's going to be this year. I think we're going to see a fantastic Olympia. I have my top 5, and it's just so crowded, but I've got Brandon Curry in the top 5.
Yes. Thank you.
I think I've been watching him on Instagram. I think he's going to bring his best ever. I think Brandon's getting better, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. And then I've got Hottie, defending champion, in there. I've got Derek in there. I've got Andrew.
I want them in order. This is weak.
Oh, you want them in order?
Numbers. Okay. Numbers.
We'll do Brandon. We'll do Brandon. We'll do Nick.
Right.
We'll do Hottie.
Ooh, all the way to third.
Brandon, Nick, Hottie. All right.
So rude of you. I put him in 6th.
Yeah. Andrew Jacked and Derek in 1st. That's my call.
Ooh, okay.
So you have Samson nowhere in the top 5. You know what I love about this is I scream that out while I don't have the returning champion on top.
You didn't have Hottie. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I could easily swap someone out there, but hey, and
that's why this show's great, because people are going to be mad at us and they don't realize it's impossible to guess.
Well, I'm mad at myself.
Yeah.
How could I not say Samson's name? But like, you just run out of space. I'm like, well,
yeah.
So this is how I think of it. Samson with another year of even getting better.
Oh, God.
What then what? You know, it's like, you know, it's so crazy. I just think that someone's got to be left out of the conversation. What do you leave Nick out?
So what about
do you not
this?
Put Nick in the top 5? Like,
for the conversation, right?
Do you not put Andrew in the top 5?
Is there value to the judges and the fans for the guys who are making massive jumps? Because, for example, you know, I put Derek in second just because I know that'll piss people off. Because he has made the kind of change that looks like he just started bodybuilding in the last year. Like, how do you be as good as he was last year? And then he's annihilating what he was, you know? So I don't see like a hottie being able to make that much improvement is why I'm able to, like, even though I obviously assume he'll be in the top 5, I like to voice it in this direction, because then I'm looking, I'm like, Andrew Jacked will be drastically better. Samson will be drastically better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. What's Samson going to look like? It could just be ridiculous. You know?
I didn't mark him as like winning the Arnold, and then he walked out, and I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. I mean, what? Does Samson just walk out and win it?
I think it's like you said earlier, though. No one does, because they're so good. I mean, you know, so as you guys are yelling at your screen, listening to this, understand that we're literally saying it's impossible to guess. And who knows? I mean, you've got those odd chances that most of you guys haven't seen, where a guy like Gunther Schlierkamp jumps in and gets 5th from like 972nd the year before.
Yeah.
And you're like, what just happened?
Look at the density Brandon has here. This is a couple of weeks ago. Like, he's been criticized sometimes on his lower body, right? Like those.
I love that we criticize anything about him.
It looks like his legs have come up to me. They look bigger from the back.
Adductors are blown.
If you just go by the Arnold placings, then you're top 5. Because you know, Derek and Hottie weren't at the Arnold. So if you're just going to put Samson as high as you can based on the Arnold, that puts him ahead of Nick, and it puts him ahead of Andrew Jacked, regardless of any improvements made by Andrew or whatever, and Samson. So then you'd have Nick 5th, Andrew Jacked 4th, Samson 3rd, and then Derek and Hottie in the 1 and 2 spots. If you're just ranking based off previous placings,
right?
You know what I mean?
Obviously,
who's beating who?
Right.
So if you're just doing, because, you know, every year when I do Olympia predictions, I would always just think, well, who's beating who? Right. And that would actually be the top 5 if you're going to go by who's beating who. Mm-hmm. But we know that that's not how it always works out, because you could do that every year and it's never right.
It's a different group, you know, it's a whole different
you know
group.
What I mean? Yeah. So especially like with the crazy rates of improvement for a handful of them. So it's going to be a very, very crazy show to watch. And then
the Olympia, go ahead.
Like, what if you get a best ever mind-boggling Instagram version of Hunter?
Right.
Like, then what? Like, so there's all these crazy things, right? So,
well, now that Ron and I have been wrong, Scott, will you set the record straight? Just
no. I'm having fun over here, just picking at you guys, telling you where you're making mistakes.
You're getting yelled at too, buddy. You're getting yelled at.
I'm with you guys that there is no telling what is going to happen, and I'm with you, Ron, that this is going to be an absolute blowout of a top 10. And this is assuming that everybody shows up. There's been a period of time there where I was so disappointed by the conditioning that guys brought to the Olympia. I just, we got all excited, and then finally it showed up, and then there was like 3 of them that really nailed it. But lately, that's not been the case. You know what I mean? Like lately, last year, I think of how did the guys turn out, and they all came in like spot on. They nailed it. So I think the likelihood of people actually hitting their mark is going up. You know, I don't know if it's that they're not trying to it used to be that everybody tried to like add 10 pounds, you know what I mean, to get into the Olympia.
Right.
And I don't know if they're doing that anymore. They're just recognizing that they need to be the best version of themselves. I do think Brandon could do really well. I could see that happening. You know, would he win again? Oh my God, that would be the craziest story if he could re-win it. Nobody's counting on that happening. Will it happen? The likelihood I don't think is awesome, but that said, he's going to do a lot of damage for anybody who's looking at that top 5. Like he's going to be a threat to any of those guys.
And another thing is we often don't think about who did the Arnold and who might be tired.
And
like, remember the old days, like Olympia champ just sat at home all year, right? Like, and then everyone else was coming in. They're always, Flex Wheeler would be there, but it's his 3rd show of the year. And, everyone would be there, but it's their 2nd or 3rd show of the year. Yeah. And Dorian was there and he's like, I just left my house for the first time in 11 months.
You know
what I mean?
All rested.
And then Ronnie had that luxury. And the year he did the Arnold was also the year that he almost got beat by Levrone. He wasn't at his best, remember?
Yep.
And then they had to they said, he came in too small for that because he was fried. Yeah. So if it can happen to Ronnie, right?
Yeah.
You never know. Like we look at Samson and Andrew and Nick from the Arnold, and we think, okay, let's just transpose them to this show. But that's a long period of time. Who's had a knee injury they haven't mentioned, and who's been battling a digestive issue, and who's not sleeping well, and who's got inflammation.
Yeah. How much better could Hottie be from last year? Like, how much more room does Hottie have to improve?
A few pounds of conditioning. He could have been even more conditioned. Yeah. I mean, we talked about how he didn't have a crazy Christmas tree. Like, it was a long ways from crazy. His glutes were in. Yeah. So we think, he's peeled. But there's some room there for improved conditioning. Like, we've all seen what head to toe, 3D, every single square inch of the body conditioning looks like, right? And he didn't quite have that. So there's room for conditioning improvement.
When we walked away we all as a collective community walked away from the Olympia last year, I think there was an amazing, overwhelming excitement for Lunsford to come back and win it. That he was going to be like the next great hope for bodybuilding. And I just going by that last year, and he's just been hanging out, right? He's looking incredible. I mean, does he have the tools that it takes to stand next to a guy like Samson in his shape? I don't know how that's going to be, but could it happen though?
I think it can stand to anybody.
Could it? Right. Could it?
I don't think of anybody in my head that I'd like couldn't. Truthfully,
that's what I'm getting around to.
Heath, he wouldn't beat him, but he wouldn't get embarrassed by the best Phil Heath of all time would not embrace Derek.
And that's what I'm kind of getting at here is, could he do it? There is no question in my mind that could happen.
You just put into words what I was unable to gather. The reason people have asked me, why I see you had Derek winning, right? Because I even posted on my Instagram. Someone said, who's going to win? And I said, Derek Lunsford.
Yeah.
And I just left it. I just said it and left it. And they said, why do you think that? Like, is it just that back video we posted the other day or whatever? And that's what it was. I was there last year. I saw what happened. I saw how far in front of everyone other than Hottie he was, I thought. Mm-hmm. And I thought about how Hottie's a lot older than him.
Yeah.
And how he's just so young,
he's
and
on
there's
his
so
way
much
up.
Room.
Yeah.
And it's and I just remember the feeling I got last year was, man, that was so great to see Hottie win. And Derek's gonna be the fucking next multi-Olympia champ. That was my thought.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's just been in my brain all year. It's just been in my brain all year. So that's why
he has improved, because that's why, for anyone curious, it's why what did bounce Hottie out was because I feel other than conditioning, there's nothing else there's no room. Like you didn't look at him and go, well, here's what's missing. And not that you did with Derek, but now that he's put more on. You're like, oh, well, that's what was missing. 17 more pounds put in the most perfect places humanly possible. Like, and Derek is, there's no BS with his Instagram. You know what I mean? So he's going to show up looking better than what we're seeing online.
Yeah.
And no version of Hottie's improvement in my head can touch that. And that's why I just slid him out. And then it's like, all right, from there, we're going against other guys that are flying up the ranks. And that's the stuff that's exciting to me, because that was my complaint when I got into bodybuilding, when it was like the era that I got in, which was Ronnie was winning when I started watching. And I looked back at the Dorian, but it was like, a lot of guys came in, they were very impressive. I'm like, yeah, but I saw that last year.
Yeah.
That was my argument back in the day. And I was like, yeah, but I saw that, you know? So, I mean, there are years you would have a hard time placing Sean Ray against himself for 5 years on which one would be first, because he never fell, but he never really shot up either. Like, I mean, obviously he had some better shows, but there weren't those drastic jumps like Derek from 2 years ago to last year to this year, you know, Jay from 2000 to 2001. We're like, oh, Ronnie from 96 to 97. You know what I mean? Where those huge jump take place. And I think as a fan, that's just what I want to see. You know, that's the beauty. Is I don't really, honestly, as cheesy as it sounds like, I don't care who wins. The idea that I like is we've got years of Olympias where every year we're going to come in and go, who's going to get it? Versus when I came up, it was like, well, you ain't beating Ronnie.
Yeah,
right.
I love how it's open like this, and there's even a discussion to have.
Yeah, there was no discussion before.
Yeah, that's close. One of my favorite lines ever was Dexter Jackson, and I think it was like, well, it was 2008. It was the year he won, and I'm pretty sure it was the year he won. And it was before he won. It was like while he was training for the O, and he did a YouTube video. I don't know if it was a Muscle Tech video or who. I don't remember what video it was. I remember he had elbow sleeves on, and he was talking about how his elbows were hurting him because he was old, and he was like laughing about it. And I remember he said, yeah, I've made a living, I've made a career out of catching people when they're off.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can't be off around me. And he goes, and this year, I'm going to make it count, or something like that. And he goes, because there ain't no runaways. This ain't the Ronnie Coleman days. And I just loved that. I was like, wow, that was a mindset. And then I think that's the year he beat Jay. So like, that was like really a cool, you know, just to see Dexter's mindset in action.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there ain't no runaways. This ain't the Ronnie Coleman days. I just love that line.
Just flowed like he's been thinking about it for a while.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. We got it out. Olympia coverage. Is that, are we happy with that? We don't need to be the best at everything.
Or anything, for that matter.
Or anything at all. Even top 10. Just, you know.
I like that you guys, when you get done with all your other podcasts, we're there.
We're there for you. Yeah. We're there for you. After you're done banging all the whores, you can come home to us. And we're still here for you.
But seriously, I'd be curious. Comment below. Who do you guys think is going to win the Olympia? Because I always like getting the perspective of our listeners, because you'll see just so much excitement for so many different people and you'll see like a lot of passion. Like there were some guys that were so passionate about Rami that if you said anything negative about Rami, they're like, basically you're about to get in a fight with somebody. And then you've got the Nick Walker
annihilated on this. I'm getting annihilated on this one.
Oh, you got the Nick Walker people. All they see is Nick Walker, nothing else. There's no question Nick's the only guy for the job. So it's like, it's cool to hear what people, and then I think this year Derek's had a lot of that too, you know? So it's always cool to hear. Samson now, I think he's the big up and comer. A lot of people are rooting for him. A lot of the guys from the UK I know that are just like, no, I've seen Samson. It's lights out. He's going to do it. So I want to hear what the listeners have to say.
Yeah. Well, Samson, Andrew, and Derek are probably the three most rapidly improving.
Oh, yeah. Without question.
That's a real watch, those three guys. We'll see what
happens. So at this point, then that means Nick Walker is kind of like an established name. You know, because it wasn't too long ago that he was like the new up and comer, but no longer is that the case. Now he's just like high level established dude.
Yeah, and he's always consistently in shape. Like he always has a shredded back double bicep, and he's a huge freak. So like you have to respect that constantly. Like that's always just going to be a massive problem for everyone, right?
Yeah,
a big, huge freak with a shredded back double bicep. It's like, oh shit.
What are you going to do?
It's always Nick's hams that get me. The hamstrings. It's just they're individual chords. Even when you can stand out on that stage with those guys, and you just see this, even the side leg, you're like, you are next to Samson, who is ridiculous too. And you're like,
like insane.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's see what happens.
We had some listener questions. We had a bunch of those. Okay. Oh, you had something else you were going to say though?
No. We've dug our grave.
Just going to go to listener questions.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
Great.
This is one.
Move on.
I haven't heard you guys comment on this at all. And for a minute there, this was the hot topic. Was the Sam Sulek guy that young guy who's making a lot of progress, and everybody has their critique of him. Initially, I think I heard a lot of negativity, but then there was a lot of, bite back to that. Scott Stevenson and I talked about him, and both of us felt like, hey, this kid's doing his thing and he's growing muscle. So, what do we have to say negative about it? But I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And the question was a random thought. I'd be interested to hear Ron's take on Sam Sulek. I feel like the way Ron talks about his younger self, he is very similar to how Sam is now.
Sam bangs a lot of hoes? Oh, sorry.
That's they were all my girlfriends. They were all my girlfriends.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it. I checked out a couple of his videos. I watched a back workout video where he's like driving in his car and he's talking, and then he goes and he trains back, and he's in like a totally normal gym, like surrounded by normal people. And I know what that's like because I spent several years training in fitness gyms. And so I see him like doing, seated cable rows with a whole stack, and there's like just like totally normal people around him, and I like how he just like eats a giant bowl of cereal. Like having my pre-workout meal, having a giant bowl of cereal and just dumps like a liter of milk on it. And just, I mean, that's how we ate. We weren't micromanaging everything at that level. Like, isn't he only 21 or something?
Young guy. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a big fan of people at that stage in their training living like tuna and rice monks. I don't know. I love it. I love seeing them pound a shake and a bowl of cereal and then just go kick ass in the gym and have a better physique than everyone who's like measuring their stuff.
Yeah.
I just love it. You know what I mean? Like, cause I put up a post the other day about, how you can't get to like 250 ripped until you get to like 300 off season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel like the reason, obviously the kid's got amazing genetics. Like he's a tank, and like, you can even see in like his face, he's got like that all-American football player head. You know what I mean? It looked like you just put any helmet for any sport on him and just throw him out there, and he looks like the type of kid that's like, let's go kick ass. Like he just looks like one of those natural born ass kicking athletes. You know what I mean?
It's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and we all know those guys, and he just happened to like bodybuilding, so now he's got that physique, and I love seeing that it's hard ass heavy training and just eating and loving life. He's not miserable. He's not obsessed with like how many grams of sugar he's eating that day or whether there was butter on his restaurant meal or any of that stuff. He doesn't give a shit about that stuff. He's just eating and training, and he's having fun with a big smile on his face. I love it. Good.
It's good. The opposite of spreadsheet bodybuilding.
The opposite of spreadsheet bodybuilding. Just pure passion. Passionate, like a bottle of Tess and a Costco membership, right? We're right back to that.
We're right back.
I got to plug in.
I think the biggest thing that makes it funny to me, all the hate towards him, was that he's never said, you guys should do what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny because I actually put up a thing. Somebody asked me maybe a month ago when he was apparently bothering everyone that's wishes they had his following about it. And I commented with, positivity, and I had clients like, well, that's not how you work with me. And I'm like, well, you're not him.
Yeah.
Like it won't work for you. You'll get fat, you know? And I think that that's the part that people have to remember is at the end of the day, all I look at is results, not how people get there. You know, when you win a show and you're sliced out of your mind and you go, oh, I was doing 9 hours of cardio a day. You don't lose points for that. You're like, sucks you had to do that, but you did what it took to win, you know?
Right.
So when I was Sam's age, I was eating nearly as poorly as him, and I didn't look anything like him at all. Missing the muscle, lots more fat. It was a terrible mess. And so it doesn't work for everyone, but same thing, like Ron did say, all kidding aside, like just loved training and eating and it gets, all that gets lost, you know, they got the perfect diet. Well, they have the perfect cycle, then a kind of decent diet, and then no training. And they're like, I don't understand. You know, I would challenge a lot of people that are hating on Sam to train with him for a day.
Yeah.
Okay, now do that for a month. I'm telling you, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with that kid because he's a freak mentally. You know, I mean, I watched him the other day. I was laughing because he wanted to do, I watched one video of his and he was doing hamstrings, and he decided to go sit on a bench and do it off of a cable. And apparently it wasn't the same bench you used, whatever. So he goes back to the seated leg curl he started on and just did more sets.
Okay.
Seatbelted himself in, did 3 more disgusting sets. And he's like, all right, we're done with hams. And I'm like, that's all it takes. You know, I mean, I wish people would realize, even when I write programs, that the reason that you have these other things is because you want them. Like, do you know what a lying leg curl and a standing leg curl are? The same thing, only the standing one's a little worse because you can cheat easier. You're just standing up instead of laying down.
Yeah.
You're on the same machine, kid. You know, so you can literally pick one curling movement and never leave it for the rest of your life, and you'd be fine. And it should be received.
Yeah.
There's all this preference and fun. It's fun. There's a lot of preference. There's logical reasons why we'd want to, have some variation. But at the end of the day, the overload's overload. And Sam's getting it done in that crappy little gym that I saw him training in. You know what I mean?
It was just great to see him go back. Yeah. He's like, this isn't working. And he said right on the thing, he was, we're going to go back to what we did. And I'm like, that's as simple as it has to be. That's it.
I predict we're coming full circle back to that. I think that he showed up at a time like it was meant to be, like the community bodybuilding that we needed to see more of that. And I think that's what this show represents too, is that it's the simplicity of what bodybuilding used to be, what it can be. And I think we got away from it as a community, got away from it for a while. And now we have all these young guys that are petrified that they're not progressing on their lift. They literally, it's causing them stress. Like I have a client who's like mentally struggling because he didn't progress in the gym on his weights or reps this week. It's like, it shouldn't be causing you. And if it causes you that kind of stress in your life, it's not going to be fun. You're not going to want to keep doing this. Like, I want you to have fun with it. The way he's living his life right now and the way he's training, there's no reason that he'll ever want to stop doing that,
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
I got a question for you. Let's say you and maybe it's varied. Let's say you're doing chest and you want to do incline dumbbell press, and then you want to do this plate loaded hammer machine that you like, and then you got a fly machine you want to use, and then some crossovers or something, and you're done chest. And you're thinking about it, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be a good chest day. And you get to the gym's real busy. Dumbbell area, no benches. So do you post up for 10 to 15 minutes and wait for a bench? Or do you just call an audible and grab the hammer incline that's sitting right there with nobody on it and just work on the hammer incline, start with that, and mix it up that day for chest? What are you more likely to do?
For me, it would have been dependent on when my career was, because obviously for a large chunk of my career, I literally lived and died by a scoreboard. But I also had set up my life in a way that I trained when people weren't at the gym. So
Right.
I had
Yeah.
I had the luxury. You know what I mean? Yeah, you'd wait here and there, but I think for a client of mine, I would hope that they would just grab a different piece of equipment and understand that the next time they get to that dumbbell press that Ron had listed was supposed to be first, there's been even more time in between when they did it last and this time, so they can expect some even better progression. They're still going to base their numbers off that old one, but yeah, you in a busy gym, you have to. I mean, Ron and I have had some really good workouts on the road, and some of the gyms we've literally found a set of cables and looked at each other and go, "We're going to do our whole workout right here."
Yeah.
I'm not a huge cable person, but trust me, if you get creative and there's lack of options or time, at the end of the day, I'm having this conversation with a lot of my more elite athletes right now. I'm like, don't be afraid to just randomly go, you know what sounds like fun today? That machine over there. And you know what, when I'm done with it, I might rack it and look over and realize the crossover is open and just walk over and bust out some 15 reps of something light and then go, ooh, brutal.
I agree with you guys.
It doesn't have to be, exact all the time. And it does make it fun. I mean, I did that to John yesterday training in the gym. We did a hack set and I had him go to failure, and I actually added a plate on that he didn't know about.
Nice.
And then once he got there, I go, okay, follow me. And I had told him earlier, because the gym's not open yet that we're training at, I had left 5 plates aside on the leg press. Like, all right, cool, go. And he just
he's super
you can't even breathe. And he's like, okay. And he gets in and he gets 25 reps. And it's fun. We've never done that. We've been training for months, but we've never been in a gym where I could just steal a leg press for 10 extra minutes either. So I was like, oh, this will be fun. And I think people should not be afraid to do that. It's going to shock your body. It's going to be fun. You're going to be sore in a different way. There's no negative to that move.
Right.
Now,
what if you get the first exercise done, no problem, and it's the second exercise that is taken? Do you ever wait for that?
My first exercise is more important. Yeah, my first exercise is more important. But hey, I got a spin for you guys, and I think you guys will get this. You'll agree with this. I don't know if the newer guys get it as much. So if there's say there's 5 benches, it's a big commercial gym, and I want to do a dumbbell incline press because that's what in my mind, that's what I want to start with. I am going to start with that exercise. If I had to wait, I'd wait. But more likely, how about I walk up to this dude that I've never met in my life and be like, hey, what's up, man? I'm Scott. Do you mind if I work in with you? People don't do that as much anymore. People are like, oh, they were using the machine, so I couldn't use it. Be like, no, dude, they're going to be on it, and then I'm going to be on it, and then they're going to be on it. And guess what? I made a new friend by the time we're done, and then I move on to the rest of my stuff.
Avoid the friend part because that's a headache, but definitely use the equipment.
Dusty's like, I knew about this. I just didn't mention it. No, you're right, Scott. Look at him. See, Scott's always trying to bridge troubled waters. And gyms.
Initially, I was like, I'm going to wait. But then I was like, no, I'm going to ask the guy. Because I do think that's a problem nowadays. People aren't working in like they used to. As an old man, I want to see the kids do the working in with each other on their sets.
I guess. Yes. Well, what if in this scenario, everyone is already in a triplet training situation?
Then I stand over them and I fold my arms and I say, how many more sets you got?
No, you did that wrong, Scott. Let me help you. That was your last set, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, that's the key line. That was your last set, wasn't it?
That's great. But you are right, Ron. I think that's key is the first movement is the one that matters the most in all of my training.
Yeah.
Except for when those times that I only did the one movement. But anyways.
Okay.
We had a bunch of other stuff. What about this one? Now, this is going to come out the day after Halloween. Speaking of which, so this is a Halloween question. Just kind of like a question I'm curious of. Are you guys familiar with the term Devil's Night?
Devil's Night. Is that a movie title?
It's a day. And it's actually, so we're recording this the day before Halloween. I didn't know this. It's a Detroit thing. It's a Midwestern. It's a Michigan thing, and I think there's one other place in the U.S. that has it. Devil's Night is the night before Halloween, where you go and like egg people's houses and toilet paper things. You vandal, you know what I mean, like that kind of stuff. You do.
You sounds very Detroitish.
Yeah. So you guys moved it a day earlier just to extend the celebration.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, that's when back in the 80s, it used to be where they would burn people's like empty houses down. They would, if I swear to God, if you're in Detroit, like in the old days, it smelled like a bonfire because they were burning houses. And it made me really realize what it's like to be from Detroit. Because the first time I ever explained Devil's Night to people, I was like, the night before Halloween when you burn all the houses down. You guys don't do that there?
Detroit people are wild.
You use that as part of your let's become friends while we share a piece of equipment at the gym.
What are you guys doing after the gym? What are you doing tonight?
Like the purge.
Burn some houses down?
Like the purge, Ron.
The purge in Detroit.
And ever since then, he gets all the equipment when he wants it.
Yeah.
What's your address? Anyways.
Yeah. It is a thing. They throw eggs and soap windows, all that. Anyway, Halloween. So this is going to be old by the time the guys hear it. But question for It's Just Bodybuilding. Which iconic horror movie villain do you think you could take on and beat up to become the final survivor?
Doesn't say beat. Just says beat.
Oh, beat to become.
There's no
Thank
up.
you.
Well, none of them. They're iconic horror movie villains.
I would want to be killed.
I don't want to mess
Jigsaw.
with any of them. Sorry?
I want to be killed by Jigsaw.
Oh, God.
I like him.
It's the worst one to pick.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go in, I want to go in. I want to just see how dark we go. I got to chop my leg off. What do I got to do?
Right. Yeah, you're not beating them yourself. Yeah.
It's great.
I'm thinking that, I might be able to like outsmart like Freddy Krueger in a dream or something, but I don't want to actually fight anybody. These people have chainsaws and axes and shit.
Yeah, it's very.
You guys are both strong, though. I feel like you could take on like a Michael Myers. If it came down to it, it's you or him.
He's got the butcher knife, though. Doesn't he have the butcher knife?
You just grab him by the arm. You don't let him hit you with it, Ron.
This is just
this is what you've been training for all your life.
But they survived all those movies with all those other people that thought they knew how to fight as well.
Yeah, this is why I hang out with
By the time they get to me,
women.
he's dealt with like 20 pissed off homeowners.
Yeah.
It's no good. This is why you hang out with attractive women, though. That's who they chase. She will fall. He will catch them.
I could take on Jason's mother from the first movie. There you go. Jason Voorhees' mom.
As long as Jason's not around, and he was still a little
now
kid,
he's pissed.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
boy.
Yeah. That would be it.
All right.
Oh, goodness.
Dusty,
Gotta watch a horror movie this year. Watch a horror movie this year. We do that every year. Last year we watched Alien, the first one, because it's technically a horror movie. And we loved that. Are you guys going to watch something? You got to pick something.
I feel like I'm being peer pressured now, so I guess I have to. The timing's a little shitty with us having to fly to the Olympia. I got packing to do,
Oh, when do you guys leave?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Tuesday.
Not me.
Tuesday.
So they
Thursday, but like early. Like I don't know who booked the flights, and I realized it was me. So,
yeah.
Okay. What's next, Scott?
All right. So let's see. It's like a
one.
2-part one here. Let me bring them both up. So I put on 40 pounds in a week on holiday after a very hard cut. Ashamed of myself. What was your biggest rebound after comp, and did you regret it? Maybe a question for Ron as well, and it's just bodybuilding.
I brought that here for you, Ron.
Yeah, I have one of the worst rebounds I've ever seen.
Really?
In hindsight. At the time, I just was like thought it was comical. It was almost like I was laughing every day. I was like, what the hell's going on? And then it got bad. But I put on 50 pounds in 5 days.
10 pounds a day.
Yeah, after a show, 50 pounds in 5 days. It was fucking crazy. And looking back now, I realize it's because it was the perfect storm of like 4 things that would cause massive water retention. And it was back in the 90s. I did a show. I won the overall. I won the overall. So the show went really well. But I did, almost no carbs for 6 weeks, like extremely low carbs for 6 weeks. And I did, back then we didn't use much salt. So my sodium was like, I was using Mrs. Dash on my food, and like we weren't using salt. And then the third thing was I used aldactone for like 4 days.
You did, Dusty. You called it.
A bit of aldactone for like 4 days. And then I didn't drink any water at all. Like we would go totally dry, like not even a sip. And I did that for like 20 hours.
Yeah.
So it was like a super harsh water cut on top of aldactone, on top of low sodium and extremely low carbs. Mind you, I was carbing up during this time, but that doesn't fix the fact that you've gone 6 weeks no carbs and you're really sensitive and all that stuff. So as soon as the show was over and I put in like
anything
salt.
Yeah. One Dorito.
Like as soon as I had like a restaurant meal, I literally like woke up the day after the show and I was already like how the day after the show you look pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Sometimes even certain body parts look better. Like your quads might be more strided, but then maybe your back's not quite as hard. So it's like you're like, do I look better? No. I like literally the next day I was like, oh, like I'm holding a bunch of water already. Like it was right away. And it just 5 days later I was 50 pounds heavier. I was 244 on stage and I was 294 5 days later. And I'd never been above 275. 275 was my off-season weight.
That's the best. You went 20 pounds above his biggest ever.
20 pounds above my biggest ever. I just went. And God. I went to the doctor on day 5. I went to the doctor and I was like, I put on. I've told this story a few times, but I said I put 50 pounds on in 5 days. He goes, that's impossible. And I go, no. And I showed him a picture because I went to like 1 hour photo and got my photos. And I was like, this was me on Saturday. And he goes, no, it wasn't.
Really? He didn't believe you?
That's me on Saturday.
It's dated.
And he was like, how? He's like, and I go, look, my tan is still like not even worn off yet. And he was like, but you look like you don't look like you even dieted. And I was like,
you don't look like you lift weights. Yeah,
he's like, fat bastard.
And so he gave me Lasix.
Okay.
And he said, you're gonna have to run some Lasix and get this fluid off you. So he gave me a prescription, and I think I took Lasix for like 10 days or something like that. Oh. And my weight, but every day I woke up like pounds lighter. And I think I got all the way down under 270.
Okay.
And then I like went off the Lasix and I cut back. I was eating so much food those 5 days too. It was all my own fault. I was just eating like a crazy person.
Yeah, I did that before too.
Like I was on a mission. I was like seeing how much I could eat. I was like, raw.
It's all muscle. It's all got to fill out.
Just psycho behavior. But that was a terrible, terrible, terrible experience. And try not to feel like shame, but definitely get your shit together. Like, he could probably drop 10 pounds off right away just by getting everything together. I bet 10 pounds would just rinse out of him.
Yeah.
I think everyone in our era had done that. And that is one advantage to the coaching pool now is like, you really prepare your clients to the best of your ability of what not to do. Make sure they're not going to go off the handles. Because I did the same thing, literally almost identical. I was smaller, but I had so much pain in my right kidney. Didn't even think about it at the time on the right side that I had to like lean over the counter at my store in between people. And then they would come in and I would just stand up and work with them, and then they would leave, and I would lean over. And I remember saying, like, okay, if this pain doesn't subside in like one more day, I gotta go to the hospital. Like, we got a serious problem. And it was just the same formulation as Ron, only add pure stupidity of not like drinking straight water. You go from drinking so much water to like soda, and I wasn't an alcohol drinker, but I just drank a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
After the show. And then of course you're eating like no one's ever going to let you eat again, which it's so funny because now you talk to anybody who's done that. If they've stayed in the sport very long, I get done with a show and I want steak and rice every single show, steak and rice. I'll have a dessert, maybe an appetizer, but like the meal is steak and rice. And I'm usually sliced for like a month after a show. I think you learn that lesson. Plus, I also factor in the fact that you feel terrible when you work so hard to look a certain way and literally 2 days later, no one even knows you competed. It's fun to enjoy that conditioning a little bit and look good and slowly bring the food back in, let your body figure it out. It's like, I appreciate my clients that have the discipline after a show to trust me and follow the diet, because they're like, dude, I'm hungry. I'm like, if we gauged it off of your hunger, you would gain 50 pounds in like a week or two, because your appetite's unstoppable. So yeah, I understand it's probably harder now than during prep, because now the only thing stopping you is me telling you not to. Yeah. There's no like repercussion of getting on stage looking like crap, so it's definitely not worth it, as he's learned. But like Ron said, I mean, you can't trip on what's behind you. You already did it. Get your act together, get that off of you. And now just like the three of us staring at you, go, yeah, I ain't doing that again.
Yeah. It's hard not to, though. Like you said, Dusty, it's like you can tell clients too all you want, and sometimes they still, 5 days after the show, they're telling you all leading into the show, like what they want to do for their off season, what their goals are, and then they disappear for 2 weeks. You reach out to them, they don't respond, and then they come back and they're like, hey, yeah, so I kind of dropped the ball. I did it too. I called it the Great Eatcation, because I went on a vacation like 2 weeks after the show. And that first week I was kind of okay. I did like a cheat meal and then went back on plan, and cheat meal and back on plan. And then went out of town for like 4 days or 5 days and just ate and went to the grocery store and got bagels. And then all the bagels were gone, and then ate and went out to eat. And finally, like the third day of that trip, we were going to like do some hiking, walking up the sand dunes. And I couldn't do it. Like I just felt like, man, I don't know why my legs keep getting so pumped. Like I can't even walk. And I get home. I was a middleweight. It was my second show. And I think I was 172 on stage. And then I had to have been over 200. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a 30 pound gain. Didn't even look like I lifted, because I wasn't big. You know what I mean? I just looked like a fat guy at that point. Like you said, fat tan. Still had the tan on,
Fat tan, fat with a patchy tan.
I love the God. I love the vacation after a show, because I learned that the hard way. My first overall, I got peeled out of my mind, and I went directly from California to Vegas to have fun.
Yeah.
And I slept for like 3 days. I was just tired. I didn't do anything. It was the worst vacation for my wife at the time that I could ever. I mean, literally, I was so tired. I just like stayed in the room and slept, and then woke up and like I was like, we could eat. So now I know it's like week or two after the show, normalize, then go have fun.
Yeah. All right. Let's
see what else don't have a jammer while you're at it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We tried our best to have one.
Yeah.
What about this one here? There's an old axiom in baseball that says that the best managers were usually mediocre players, because during their playing career, they had to work harder and be smarter about their training methods to compete with those that were more gifted and talented. Do you guys think that this tends to be true about bodybuilding as well?
Well, I mean, to a certain degree, it's equally as applicable as it is to any other situation, I think. I mean, quite often the greatest players aren't the best coaches. Mm-hmm. We do see that, and I think that's exactly why. But there's exceptions to each side of it, but I think it's just as common as it is in other sports. I don't think it's necessarily more common or less common. I don't know.
Right.
There's only one. You got to remember, like, bodybuilding's funny because for big chunks of its history, there's one champ, right? Like Arnold had 7, Lee had 8, Dorian had 6. Like there's these big swaths of time where there's one champ and everyone else is a loser. That's how bodybuilding kind of works, right? So it's like, it's at what level are you accomplished? Like if you get a pro card in the 90s, you're one in very few. It's very few people, right? So I don't know, like what does best mean? Like at what level are you a great player? What makes you a great bodybuilder? Who's great? Someone have a pro card, does that make them like elite? Like, or is that because you're standard, like, no, like top 5 at the Olympia. How many of those guys coach? Right. Like, well, none of them, you know what I mean? So like, I don't know.
I mean, I totally agree with you, Ron. Like, I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with anything. Because, for example, Terrence is a phenomenal coach. You know, he knows his stuff inside and out. He's phenomenal with his clients, and he's one of the best to ever do it.
Right.
I think it really comes down to more, because outside of genetics, bodybuilding is not about talent. You know what I mean? And I know it sounds like a funny thing to say, but it's about work. Like, that's why I love it. You know, when other sports, like you're literally born, you know. I mean, Dante messaged me after the brief hockey conversation we had. It was like, oh, I wish you'd went more in depth with that.
Yeah.
Because people really don't understand, like, in those other sports, it's literally talent. Like, when no one understands, why are you good at this? You've never done it in your entire life. You know, whereas bodybuilding, sure, you have genetics, but I feel like Derek Lunsford can identify with the hell you have to go through just like I can. He was just better at it, but he's went to the darkest places. You don't think Flex Lewis has ground through hell in that slow sludge to get in that shape? He has. His finished result being better doesn't mean he can't teach it. I think the only thing that you sometimes run into, and it has, again, it doesn't have to do with whether they were good or not, is some of us are not patient with people who cannot get it. Because it's not optional. Like, that's the most irritating thing to me in bodybuilding now, is this quest to find an easier way.
Yeah.
Like, no, don't look for an easier way. Look for the best way. And I think that's something that some people, you know, we joke about it at home, because Nikki would be terrible. If she was a coach, she would be terrible.
There's no
she
patience.
Doesn't give a shit about why you couldn't do it. There's no excuse. You didn't die. That's the only thing that would stop you from doing cardio in her brain. You know, so I don't think it applies to make a really long-winded thing, because there are great on both ends. And I know some guys that actually, you know, as much as we like to complain, I think it's great if you understand bodybuilding, if you've done it. I do think that helps.
Yeah.
But it's not a gatekeeper either. There are people who've never really done this at all that just know how to get people in shape. It's not that hard.
What about here's a perspective for you. What about the fact that, like, how important is the coaching to the person? Is it a pro that just is like now offering coaching on the side, or is it, you know, they have like a bunch of other businesses that is their real focus, or is it somebody that, like, this is their career, like this is what they're doing? This is like Terrence. I think Terrence, for him, he's looking at his future and he's saying, like, okay, I'm not going to do bodybuilding competitively for my entire life. I need to think about something afterward. And he's kind of set himself up for this is going to be my path. So he's taking it serious. So is it a guy like that? Or is it a guy that's like, yeah, I'll take your money? You know what I mean?
That's a huge difference. That's a huge difference, because they're there for you. And one more caveat to that is make sure that the coach and the client relationship fits.
Yeah.
I put right in on my questionnaire how I coach, in hopes that people read it and really get it. Like, I absolutely know what I'm doing, but I might not be the right coach for you. So I'm not offended if you look at it. You know what I'm saying? Because that's another factor. It's like, you know, I'm going to hold you to a really, really high standard. But you're also never going to call me on the phone. And, but some people want that, like they do. And I can't, and this is the logic behind that. And I know some people like probably shake their head to hear that. A 10-minute conversation on the phone that can be handled in a lot of other ways takes 45 minutes.
Yeah, it really does.
And if you have, this is way less than me, but if you have 20 clients, do the math. You know what I mean? It's just not necessary. Chris and I never talked about bodybuilding on the phone. We talked a lot on the phone as friends, but never bodybuilding. Bodybuilding were like 4-word emails back and forth.
Or it was like 1 minute of the conversation. We like, what are your carbs? 200. Let's go to 150.
Yep.
How's everything going? Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, got to blah, blah. I got to fly here. I'm coaching Andrew for this show, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, it has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the work was done the other way, but you are right, Scott. I think for a lot of people, they just say, well, wait a minute. I'm so-and-so and everybody knows me and I got 4 million followers.
Yeah.
If I offer to put this up, I'll get 100 people to give me $200 a month.
Right. Mike Davies put it one time, because Mike Davies has coached since forever. Like before they had the internet, back they were sending pictures and stuff like that in the mail. He was one of those guys, and he had said that there is a difference between somebody who coaching is their career, like the three of us, we make our money through coaching for the most part. And between that guy and the guy who's doing it as a side hustle, I can make a few extra bucks coaching. There's a big difference, because at the end of the day, like I got to pay my electric bill. I got to pay my insurance, stuff like that. So it's freaking important that somebody is the best they can be, because that's how I pay my bills, or is it so that I can like buy a Gucci purse for my wife or something? You know what I mean? There's two different standards there. Yeah.
Right.
So
do you buy Gucci purses?
No, I never have in my life, but
you thought about it though, just now. Victoria would kill you.
Yeah, probably would.
I got a real important one that I forgot about here, guys. This is in response to, first of all, I didn't realize that Menser video, that was some dark shit. All right. So
yeah,
Ray died the day after that video. Yeah.
I didn't realize.
I didn't either.
It was like 2000 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2001, I think somebody said.
Remember, we thought it was early 90s or something, because we just couldn't tell. And then we just were like, what time period is this? And I think a few guys solved that problem. Yeah.
And then Mike died 2 days after that. So dark stuff that we were involved in there that we didn't even realize. But you had said, Ron, they were talking about like those slow concentrics. And you're like, man, why don't they get more aggressive with those reps? That's the one thing you do different. And somebody said, for building muscle, why would you explode through a rep? It makes no sense for building muscle. It is proven that time under tension is what builds muscle. Exploding through a rep is for sports to build explosiveness. Slow concentrics help with time under tension. It works. Teaching people to explode every rep makes it uncontrollable, and injuries are caused.
There's a fundamental misunderstanding of what's being said, enormous misunderstanding, and they're not correct. The studies show that when you have the intent of moving the bar with speed, there are more muscle fibers recruited, and that slow concentrics don't recruit as many muscle fibers as fast concentrics. The reason the bar is not actually flying out of your hands and causing injury is because you're using a good weight that is challenging. So when you're using like a warm-up weight 135, you're not supposed to like explode and throw it around and jingle the plates at the top and all that stuff. That's, of course, you're going to be just moving them and warming up and getting things moving. But when it comes to working with a weight, and I'm not talking, also too, people misunderstand explosiveness. They think of bringing the bar down and then they think of going bam. No. Bring it down and from a technical dead stop, even if it's only a quarter of a second, that's what you drive up from. So we're not adding bounces or anything like that. People think that's explosiveness because they think of Olympic lifters with like the bar flexing and using momentum and stuff. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about accelerating into the bar as hard as you can to move it. And that's what I believe we want to do with our work sets, is drive with the intent of moving the bar or the platform or whatever we're driving against with speed. Now, you obviously have to use your brain as to whether you've got like maybe you've got a light weight on that you're going to do 30 reps with. You're not going to move it as fast as possible off the bat because it's a light weight, but that's not what we're talking about. Right, Dusty? Yeah. Is it, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. No, it was funny reading that because
slow concentrics to limit your load.
Yeah, everything, I mean, and this is an opinion. Like, this is facts. Like, you should dig deeper on the research because it's literally not correct to say that. So, first factor, and that's a fear of the internet because anyone with a keyboard's got a microphone. But the other factor is simple. Like you said, Ron, you cannot explode the same way. Like I actually do warm up, like for example, on a barbell row, I do one just kind of like feel with 135, and I do one where I'm yanking it. I still have complete control. It's not hitting me in the stomach. But if you heard it, you would hear the weight click at the top and back down when I push back down.
You get
same
moving.
with 225, same with 315. That way I'm not getting all the way to 405, 495 and now starting a totally different movement.
Yes.
You know,
I understand
but now
that
it doesn't look explosive anymore, like you said, because, well, it's 400 pounds. But it does play a huge, huge role. And if you want to get into the dirty, you know, truth of the best way to put on muscle mass, it would then be at the top to hit that and then control, not slow, but control and make sure the muscles are working on the way down. Don't drop it, you know, and that's the difference between us and powerlifters is they don't give a shit. They just want it back to the ground as soon as possible so they can pull again, you know, and a quick way to argue that I always like to just break things down to the most simple thing. How does a sprinter's legs get so big? It's all explosive. It's all violent.
And the time under tension thing, I would argue as well. I don't think time under tension, like none of the studies say that time under tension is a key driver of hypertrophy. If anything, they say volume is a key driver of hypertrophy. And however you interpret volume, whether it be maximal loads for high intensity sets and all that sort of stuff, how you interpret volume can vary. But time under tension, that's not the key driver. Because like, you know, having 20 pounds on a bar and sitting in the middle of a rep, that's technically tension, but that's not going to be the key driver of hypertrophy. So you have to be careful when you sort of like see one thing as like the most important factor. It's total volume is what drives hypertrophy. And we know that from a lot of studies, you know, so you have to find ways to work around that and with that. But yeah, I get his point though. Like he thinks that we're doing like bouncing reps and throwing bars around, and that's not what we meant.
Yeah. I knew what you meant too, but I thought it was important because it was a great conversation. And it was something, it took me a period of time, I guess, to figure this out too. I remember when I learned this, it was training with Shelby and it was a leg day, and I usually always trained back with him, but we were doing legs. I could make it out on the day he trained legs, which I usually worked that day. So the special day I'm out there, we were on the hack squat, and I remember, nice slow negatives like I always do, and then a slow concentric up. And he said, hey, why don't you try driving that more aggressively? And of course, being controlled. We're always in control when we're being aggressive. Like we're not just blasting through the roof, right? And I tried it, and this would be my challenge to this guy or anybody that questions this idea is if you always use slow concentrics, hop on the hack squat or another compound leg movement and push out 5 reps aggressively yet controlled and feel how that feels. You will feel, I felt the difference. I was like, oh crap, like the amount my legs felt from those reps, I dug so much deeper into the tissue. Like you could feel it. I didn't need a study to tell me. It was instantly like, oh yeah, this makes sense. I need to do this more.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially because we have high threshold motor units, which are like not all the muscle fibers are as easy to get to fire. Like some of them are lazier and they hold off. They're more stubborn. And if you really want to activate everything, like we see maximal activation comes from maximal drive against the bar.
Yeah.
Right.
So
I feel like back in the day, most of us actually our form was too textbook in the beginning because we all learned from magazines, and I never got to watch anything. So I learned reading, and I read, this is how you do it. And then I trained that way. And then I started meeting JJ Marsh and other top guys, and they're like, what are you doing? And then they essentially undid my perfection. And then I started growing quickly, you know, and I went, oh, okay.
What you thought was perfection.
Yeah. Cause I mean, based on, you know, if I were to write down the way I do a row now and then compare it to what I read in a magazine, I am not doing it correctly at all. It is terrible form. And I feel like that's the line, and each individual needs to find that for themselves, where it's like, okay, here's the alleged textbook version, and here's where I feel the most. And I feel like that word is where things get lost a lot. It's like Okay, but did you feel it? Because if you go into the gym and say you followed me and you're like, all right, I'm going to do what Dusty does. If you aren't feeling your back from your neck to your ass, then you're not feeling what I feel. So, did you feel it more your way and feel through, what works for you? Because that's the biggest factor that somehow gets lost with people. It's just like the Sam thing. No one's telling you to do it this way. It's just how we do it or how I do it.
Yeah. And I tell the newer someone is, the more I think one time it was recent where we said, not everyone's going to feel every exercise, especially when they're new, but are you getting a crazy pump in the right body?
That's a feel. Yeah.
So if you're doing bent over rows and you don't really feel them in your back, but let's say you've only been training a short time or whatever, and you're doing bent over rows, but you're like, I don't know, I don't really feel those. The bar's just hitting, like the bar hits my belt and it goes to extension and I'm just doing them and they get hard and then I hit failure. But when they stand up and, walk around for a few minutes between sets, they get crazy pumps in their lats and they go to the next set and they get an even better pump. When that's happening, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
And then the next day your lats are sore. If that stuff's happening, don't worry about what you're feeling in the gym yet. It'll come with time. But you're still feeling the muscle. It's sore and it's pumped. So So there's the feel. The feel is just
That's the extension versus the leg press. I mean, extension always feels worse to me.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
I've
we got next, Scott.
That's all we have for questions. I have one more for you guys. I'm going to put you on the spot to get you to either commit or let people know what's going on for next week. So you guys are traveling. I don't know if Monday is going to be an option, but if not, do you guys want to do a live Wednesday if that's an option? I figured we'd let the people know now if that was something you guys wanted to do, or if we're going to take the week off or whatever, we just keep people posted. Off. Okay.
I'm good to go next Monday. I mean, I'm back on Sunday, so I'm good.
Okay. We'll be back. Yeah, we'll do normal.
We can do our Olympia wrap up and talk about our trip.
Leaving people out for sure.
Yeah. We talk about the top 5
and leave out number 1.
The winner.
Yeah.
We'll get sidetracked on the second place guy and we'll go for 10 minutes over here and then we'll just move on to listener questions. I can see it happening.
Shout out to everybody, including Drea. I'm excited to see how she does. We were supposed to get together and shoot some video this week, but she had some stuff going on and we couldn't make it happen. So I didn't get to see her one more time before the Olympia. Yeah. She's got a busy week ahead of her.
Yeah, and we'll definitely all the best to Sean Clarita and Andrea because they're both defending and they're both going to repeat. I predict 2 repeats from the Mutant team at the
Sean's looking crazy. Sean's looking absolutely nuts.
Sean, and I think Sean mentally and where his life is with his new house in Dallas and his family and everything clicking on all cylinders, and he's doing so well with business. And I just think Clarita's just on a mission, and I think he's going to repeat once again. And then I think Drea's going to smash everybody again. So that's the prediction. It should be a fun weekend at the Mutant booth.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
IamMutant.com. Get your ISO surge, get your all in, and everyone should get on the gear. Remember, Dusty 20, Big Ron 20. Thanks, everybody. Remember the Patreon for Think Big Bodybuilding. Remember, support the shows and keep a producer homed.
Thank you, guys.
Patreon is much appreciated, and we do feature the questions from you Patreon and YouTubers. So get on there and help us out, and we appreciate it.
And we can use questions for the next show. So, guys, comment with your questions. We'll be sure to get those in.
Okay. Not just the anger of our poor Olympia.
You can tell us how much you hate us too,
and
that too,
all that. A question underneath of it.
Yeah.
Like, why are these 2 idiots on the show? Something like that.
I sort of snuck in 2 top 3s there. I don't know if you caught that, but I sort of covered the bases. But I really appreciate it, everybody. Remember, it's just bodybuilding.